Hey everyone, so I had a few people curious about my lighting and texture setup for this model. I designed this alien effigy in ZBrush. So I've loaded it in. First thing I want to do, sit in, go to view, and then put the camera to view. This is going to allow us to use the camera to kind of move around. Now if I hit 0 on the numpad, we can get directly to the camera. Middle mouse button allows us to rotate around. If we hold the middle mouse button and shift, we can pan it, and then if we scroll the wheel back and forth, we can, zoom out, zoom in. This is really nice for getting around the model quickly. It's a little tricky doing it the other way. So this is more traditional, like key shot, like I believe Mama said as well, is like that. So anyway, we've got the model here. We'll get the camera kind of set up. Maybe we'll do it from that angle. So now let's go ahead and go over to the shading tab. Now this is where we're going to do a lot of our work here. Some of the nodes that we're going to use don't work in the EV. So this is the EV viewport render. It's really nice for getting the initial textures set up and such, but we're actually going to be over in the viewport shading rendered part quite a bit. So now we're over here and we want to change the rendering engine to cycles, and I'm going to change it to GPU. You can leave it on CPU if you like. And right now it's pretty dark, kind of weird looking, so we're going to go ahead and click down here to the object part and go to world. What I'm going to do is add what's called an HDRI image, and so we're going to find environmental texture, pull that in. And HDRI is basically like the environment off of the image data. They create really good, really quick, realistic lighting. So we're going to go ahead and pull in an HDRI that I like. You can actually find lots of good HDRIs. If you go to hdrihaven.com, you can get them in 2K, 4K, 8K, various resolutions that way. So I'm going to go with the Muddy Autumn Forest 4K. So we're going to go ahead and load that in here. And then I'm going to apply the color to the color in the background, and boom, we've got some nice forest lighting. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the alien effigy. I'm going to go to Object, and then we're going to hit New to add a new material. So this is our main shader, the principal BSDF. And what we want to do is we want the recesses to be dark and everywhere else to kind of have a gold, silver, or a goldish look. And then we want to add a little bit of patina weathering maybe on the top. Give it some oxidization. And then we also want, maybe to add a bump to it so that certain area, so it looks like it was like maybe hammered or chiseled or something. Give it some real an aged look. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shift, search, and we're going to find the geometry node and put this here. The next thing that we're going to need, because we want to be able to control where the high points are, where the low points are, etc., we're going to need to add a color ramp to this object. So I'm going to put the color ramp here. And now we want to do the pointiness into the fact. Pointiness is what's going to give us those cool recesses. And then the color, we'll put it into the base color here. And now if I move, it's thinking. So now if I move this in, you can kind of start to see that the recesses are looking a little dark. We move this over, now we're getting that nice dark look, and we can kind of bring them closer here. And you see how I'm moving the slider, and it is to various degrees kind of covering that information. I'll move this here, and we can go ahead and move this back a little bit, and now the recesses are kind of much more defined. So you can play with this and create some really nice effects. So we're gonna kind of give it. We'll go probably about here with that. And then if you click on these little ticks here, we can go ahead and change this color. So we can kind of give it, we can mess around, find a little bit of a darker gold color, and then we can up the metallic on it. This is going to give it a little bit more of an authentic look. We can lower the roughness a little bit, give it some sheen, some shine. All right, so just really quick, only a couple nodes, and we've already got kind of like the rub and buff look that I do on my 3D printed stuff, which is just the black primer, and then you kind of buff the highlights with the gold, so it kind of gives it that instant look. But we want to do a little bit more with that. So we're going to go ahead, and I want to give it a little bit of a patina wear over it. So let's go ahead and add a image texture to this. So take a second to load in here. Alright, and I accidentally had it too close, so if you kind of drop it in, yep, and see it completely changed it. If you drop it in too close to other nodes, sometimes they kind of just decide to take over. Okay, so now we're fixed here. So we've got these two here. We want to load in an image texture. So let's go ahead and grab the texture real fast. And I just Google textures, found a few that I liked. I need to kind of build up a library of textures, so maybe I can share that with someone here. So now we're loading in this copper patina. It's not doing anything yet because we're not connected to anything. So what we want to do is we want to blend the color ramp, and then we want to blend it with that copper patina. So what we need to do is add a mix RGB shape. This is going to take our information, and now if we pop it right here, the color is going to go to the color. This is going to go to the base. So we've got that all connected. And then if we adjust the fact, we adjust it all the way this way, we get 100% this texture. If we adjust it all this way, we get this kind of silver over here. So what we want to do though is pop in that patina. And right now it's kind of cool. It just sort of darkened things. It's not projecting any texture on it yet. And actually this looks pretty good. I kind of like that. But we're going to go ahead and do a little bit to it. So let's go ahead and add a texture coordinate, and we'll go ahead and add a mapping node. So what these are going to allow us to do is generate a texture onto this, because I don't have it UV mapped. I don't know how to do that. So we're going to go ahead and hit generate it into vector, and vector into vector. Now it's going to think for a minute, because we're kind of doing this all in cycles. And now you can kind of see we've got color information, different hues going on, and we're kind of getting that oxidized look. Now what I like to do is turn it from flat to box, and then blend the texture. I just noticed I get a lot less texture stretching on certain parts of the model. If I switch it to box, blending it kind of helps hide seams, other things like that. And now what we can do is we can go over here to the back, and we can really play around with this. Like we can go all the way back out to gold, and we can incrementally bring in some of that. So like there, that looks pretty nice. We can go back out a little bit, and then so now we've got kind of a cool patina on there. Looks real nice. And then next up, what we're going to want to do, we could even wanted to, let's see if I can do it, and that patina kind of gets into those crevices, which is kind of cool. Let's say we put it all the way up, it's kind of too much, so we can turn that down again, and it's fun to just mess around with the sliders. You can change, we can pull up the roughness and and we get a lot of different kind of cool looks. I could sit here for hours and just mess around with this. So what we want to do now is we look, we've got this very flat texture. If we want to add some wear to it, make it look, like maybe it was hammered and worked with or something like that, we can go ahead and add a bump to it. So we're going to go ahead and go down here. And first, to get that kind of, hammered look on there, we're going to add a texture, noise texture. Put that there. And then we're going to go ahead and add a bump to it. And we'll put the bump here. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to plug that back into the height and that into the normal. And immediately we're kind of looking at it and it's done some weird things. It's kind of strange. So what we're going to want to do is really scale. It's still, we're going to really scale this. Let's scale it up to, I would say, about 100. Okay. And then maybe we want to throw out the detail. Now, right now, it looks like awful. It looks like it's, I don't know. It's just really bad. So let's go ahead and we can take the strength down on this. So we can really pop it down and boom. Now we've got some weathered or kind of like a hammered look, on here. We've got a little bit of patina on there as well. And that is honestly the gist of it. It's just a few nodes here, not a very complex setup. And, we can monkey around with this and find some like really cool looks, and we'll zoom back in and you can see that kind of hammered look there. You can turn it up slightly, turn it down, just depending on what kind of look you're going for. So the next thing that we want to do, and what I like, is we'll go ahead and go back to layout. And then if you shift add, and we're going to go ahead and add a empty cube to this. And what this is going to do is we're going to have the camera focus on the empty cube for our motion blur. So we're going to grab Z-axis, move this up, scale, Z-axis, kind of widen it out, scale, X, kind of widen this way. So this is sort of the area that is going to be much clearer, and then everything kind of outside of that is going to be a little bit blurry. So we can actually click here and bring in kind of the cycles preview. Now what I should probably do is turn down my sampling. That's probably one of the issues here. So now we want to go ahead and select the camera. Go down to the camera or object data properties here for the camera. And I'm going to turn this up to like 90. And let's see. We're going to go ahead and depth of field. So now we can see it is quite a bit. And it's in no particular way, it's just blurring everything out. So we want to focus on that empty. And now we can see, if we look in here, everything outside of that is starting to sort of blur. We can go down to the f-stop and we can lower that, and you can start to see, if I lower it all the way, outside of here is kind of blurry. Even some of these are sort of blurry. So what we want to do, and then we can go to here, and let's turn up the resolution. So I just kind of want to get more of this object in the screen. So now together here. So we're getting some blur on the items behind. It just gives it kind of a little bit of realism, I find. We can play with that too. You can move this f-stop around and really get some good effects. So like you can move in and right there, and then just go up, render image. It's going to take a minute to load, but we'll check out this image here. So you can see that we get that nice texture in there. We've got some cool focal blur in the back, kind of gives it a little bit of realism, and then much closer here. So I hope that this kind of helped explain the process. I'm sorry I'm kind of scatterbrained and all over the place. I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. But yeah, I hope it helps.